Hello and welcome to the Faith Flow podcast by Faith World TV with me, Mary Alison Momoh, where we'll be having engaging, inspiring, insightful, captivating and thought-provoking conversations with leading figures from all walks of life. So tune in weekly for your dose of inspiration. Stay tuned. Hi everybody, welcome to another episode of Faith Flow. My name is Mary Alison Momoh. I hope you're well wherever you're watching us from or listening. And I'm just so honored today to be sat with the bishop himself, my guest, Bishop Wayne Malcolm. You're welcome to the
Mary,
podcast. Hey,
really happy to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. It's such an honor.
The pleasure
Thank you.
is all
mine. No, I don't take this for granted because obviously you have a really busy schedule, and thank you for taking some time to be with us today. So, Bishop, would you introduce yourself to us and just tell us a little bit about yourself?
All right. Well, I'm Bishop Wayne Malcolm, otherwise known as the Business Bishop. And I was dubbed the Business Bishop because of the relationship between my role as a Christian leader and my work as a business development consultant and an executive coach. And I guess there came a junction in my life where I fused these two passions together.
Yes.
And I'm extremely passionate about the Bible, about the gospel and the kingdom. But I'm also passionate about business and business systems and enterprise and entrepreneurship. And I left the professional world to go into the Christian ministry, but I took with me the learning, and I really cherish those particular years.
Mm-hmm.
And at a particular point, I was challenged to fuse them together.
Yes.
Which means I had to find some business in the Bible and some Bible in business, and I did. I realized that the Bible is a masterpiece when it comes to business systems and the whole spirit of enterprise. And so, because we support entrepreneurs and leaders in various fields, including church leaders, I was dubbed the Business Bishop.
I really, really, really like the sound of that, the Business Bishop. You know, I just see you all in, business bishoping. But we're going to talk a lot about that, just unpacking what you've just introduced of yourself, because I just think it's amazing. It's awesome to see a Christian leader, but also someone who is successful in the business world. And we just want to know more about that, because the church today really needs to fuse these two together if we are going to move on in the 21st century and be a mighty force to be reckoned with.
Yeah.
Hallelujah. So I always want to go back to the very beginning,
Sure.
how you came to the Lord and how your journey has been so far.
Oh, well, I came to the Lord at the ripe age of 15 years old.
Wow.
And I was invited to church by a young lady.
Yes.
I was more interested in the young lady than I was in the church. And,
thank you for being honest.
I took up the invitation, and of course it was an encounter. I had an encounter with God that was life-changing, a very defining moment, and that put me on a new path. So I'd come from a very turbulent background, given that I was involved in a lot of things that you don't think 15-year-olds are involved in, but I was involved in all of it, and pretty advanced in all of it. So my conversion was a shock, and on my ecosystem, and it took several years of discipleship and Bible school and just participating at a local church level before we could even see what God was up to in terms of my conversion. But that's how I came to Christ, and absolutely no regrets. Love the Lord, and sold out the whole route.
Absolutely.
And, so that I guess is the beginning of my Christian journey. It started at 15 years old, and prior to that, I think our family was nominally Christian, in a very nominal sense, but I was much more into deviance.
Explain.
Deviance as in, in the 70s, which is giving away quite a lot.
Yeah.
So, in the 70s, a young black person in the UK found themselves in the crossfire of a cultural revolution. Um, the the white majority were still coming to terms with a black minority.
Mm.
There weren't many laws. Um, there weren't any laws actually protecting our civil and human rights,
Mm.
and we were quite oppressed, quite persecuted. Um, we were likely to be arrested for nothing, detained for nothing, and black people were also dying in police custody.
Mm.
This sparked a number of riots. The riots then led to some changes in legislation,
Mm-hmm.
and on the story goes. But as a young black man, you would be very much into weed, marijuana.
Mm-hmm.
You would be very much into being ready to fight for
Mm.
yourself.
Mm.
So you'd be part of a group.
Mm.
You would hustle and do what you needed to do to make money, to eat, and so forth. So I was fully engaged in that particular struggle.
Wow. Wow, Bishop.
I was the least likely person to become a
Yes,
preacher.
yes. But thank God. Thank God for the gospel and the saving knowledge of Jesus.
Absolutely.
So how did you become a bishop?
Okay, so I started pastoring very young. I was pastoring at 21 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and the church grew very fast. Okay, so one of the reasons it grew fast is obviously I was very passionate about reaching souls, about saving souls. We were very evangelistic. We were not inward focused, we were outward focused because of my own background. So I quickly identified with people who were in prison, people who were drug addicts, people who were just not in I identified with a lot of people,
Mm-hmm.
and I was able to lead a lot of people to Christ. So a lot of people came straight out of prison, got saved. A lot of people, and so church was growing quite fast, and it wasn't the migration of existing Christians to
Yeah.
another church
Yeah.
because the music's better or because there's a better children's church.
Yeah.
This was just people coming out of real hardship and
That's
coming to
amazing.
Christ.
Yeah.
And so the church grew quite rapidly, and this, of course, began to attract the attention of a lot of other pastors who were also looking to grow in a more biblical sense. And when I say a biblical sense, I mean through evangelism.
Mm.
Okay, so
Mm.
I guess I became an authority when it comes to evangelism and soul winning and church growth.
Yes.
And this was, as I was getting to my late 20s, I appeared on a lot of platforms. I was giving lots of opportunities to speak at different leadership conferences in different parts of the world, just about evangelism and church growth.
Okay.
And so I found myself mentoring pastors
All right.
without any official
Title,
responsibility
yeah.
to do so.
Yes, yes, yes.
Right, so there was no title, but I was mentoring pastors in various countries. And then a bishop who began working with me over a period of time, he said, look, you're not called a bishop, but you're functioning as a bishop, and I'd like to consecrate you a bishop.
Okay.
And I was very hesitant, very resistant to the idea, but then I realized there were literally hundreds of pastors that I was supporting, training, helping and developing, and I just surrendered and I accepted. So
Yes.
at about 33 years old, I was duly consecrated a bishop.
Wow.
And stepped fully, I guess, into my role of supporting other pastors and church leaders.
Yeah.
So that's how that happened.
Wow. Bishop, I'm just so loving your story so far. But I just want to pick up on something that you said in the introduction about business strategies in the Bible and how the Bible is just filled with them, because I'm actually quite curious myself, because many people do frown upon the word business. I'm talking about in the church context.
In the church world,
In
yeah.
I think it's like maybe they got that scripture in Matthew 21 when Jesus walked into the temple and saw the money changers, and those were dealing in, business,
Yes.
selling doves, and then he got a whip, overturned their tables, drove them out, and said that my house shall be a house of prayer. So it's like he drove business out of the church. But what would you say to that person, or what would you say actually of that business is actually good in the church and is of God?
Yeah, absolutely. So first of all, it's an interesting take on driving out the money changers. And I'd like to come back to that at some point.
Yeah.
But let me just address the whole idea of business in the Bible. So I guess what a lot of people don't realize is that the Bible was written in and fundamentally to an entrepreneurial culture, an entrepreneurial age, in which there were no social services, there was no government safety net for people who were falling into poverty. And the only people that had jobs were slaves and soldiers in the traditional sense. Everyone else had to take a skill to market. They either had to farm, they had to fish, they had to build,
carpenters,
to construct.
Yeah.
They had to develop a craft,
Yeah.
and then they had to exchange value for money. And that's how people lived. So any professional advice in the Bible is fundamentally aimed at entrepreneurial cultures and societies. Perhaps the best way to understand that is to look at developing countries. In a developing country, entrepreneurship is not a strange message. It's survival.
Yes,
right?
it is.
It's not like someone's going to pay your medical bills,
Absolutely.
your housing, your
No
education.
benefits, yes.
You have to find a way to make it happen. And that's exactly the culture in which the Bible is set, which is why all of our faith heroes, in fact, if you were to look at our faith heroes, right, and the whole hall of faith, you'll find that the vast majority of them are entrepreneurial people. So Abraham, the Bible says he's very rich. He was very rich in silver, in gold, in cattle. We also know he dug wells, and his estate, his estate had at least 300 servants in it. So he had 300 employees in his system.
Absolutely.
And that's the father of faith, and that's the friend of God. So any idea that being industrious, being creative or enterprising is somehow incompatible with spirituality, you start running into trouble, because most of our faith heroes commanded significant wealth through enterprise, through industry, and through particular skill sets. So I could have started before Abraham. I could go on through Isaac, Jacob. Joseph is perhaps my favorite Old Testament character. He became phenomenally wealthy and influential, not because of how well he sang in church or because of how he preached, but because he was able to anticipate a crisis and he was able to mitigate the crisis. So he developed a solution, implemented the solution, managed the implementation of the solution, and that by any stretch of the imagination is called a consultancy. Right? So he was a consultant to the Pharaoh, and he was paid handsomely, and he advanced the purposes of God through his profession. So I could go on and on with examples of people who served God from professional platforms, and without their professional activity, the story of the Bible starts to break down, right? So I think it's important to understand that when we talk about business, we are talking about surviving, we're talking about thriving, and we're talking about something that is literally innate in terms of the human spirit, the human personality. The image and likeness of God is creative, it is industrious, it is productive, and we as human beings, unlike any other creature, have this insatiable appetite to create and a limitless capacity to create. And if left to ourselves and put in the right environment, we start imagining, we start creating, we start materializing our ideas, and we add value to humanity.
Yes.
So nothing incompatible with the Bible and business there. And I guess I could go on and on with that. I think what we do know is that anything can be abused, right? And any good thing can be abused.
Yeah.
All right. A knife and fork are very innocent, utensils that we use to eat food. They can be abused.
Yes. Yeah.
And I think the Bible is very clear about the abuses of power, the abuses of money, the abuses of opportunity, exploitation. The Bible is very clear about all of that. But what we must not do is throw out the baby with the bathwater.
Yes.
We have to put a clear distinction between abuses of opportunities and seizing opportunities.
You've really encapsulated what I wanted to talk about and also ask. But first of all, I like the way you have used modern day terms to bring the business side of the Bible to our century, calling Joseph a consultant, and it's just, it just blows my mind and it's actually the truth that that's what you call a consultancy, and he came from nothing. And also, as you were talking there, there's a whole scripture. We always say the word God bless you, or the Lord bless you and keep you. But what is he blessing?
Yeah.
Is it the person? Is it the work of your hands? Is it your gifting? Is it your creativity? So all things there, it just does make sense that the word of God is very compatible with business, and what you're saying, it was written to the entrepreneurial spirit. So how can we awaken that entrepreneurial spirit in the church today, in the body of Christ?
Yeah, so the assumption there is that it's sleeping, right? And I'm going to say that in some cases it really is sleeping because it was put to sleep.
Yes.
And it was put to sleep, I guess, by a constant diet, right, of a particular theology. So sleep inducing theology number one is that we're just pilgrims and strangers here. This world is not our home, and we need to evacuate and get ready to evacuate and get out of here as soon as possible. So once you overdose on this idea that the world is them, this is us, we're getting out of here, right? Then you start losing interest in ways that you can contribute to a better society, add value to a society, engage a society, become the difference that makes a difference. And we kind of inherited psychologies that were escapist, that were abandonist, and so forth. So once you actually realize that you are planted on purpose in this generation, that you are actually chosen to be a part of this junction in human history, because there's a part you should play, there's a role for which you have been anointed, then you can now start to look at the world around you and say, right, how am I going to contribute to making things better? How can I add value in the world where I am? So I think that's a bit of a crossroads in Christianity at the moment, where some people are still very much isolationist, escapist, evacuation hungry in their mindset, right? And even though they live in a monastery, invisible monastic walls are around them, right? But I'm pleased to say that on my travels, that way of thinking is just so diminishing. It's so disappearing. And most people realize that we've been in the last days for 2,000 years, that Jesus has been coming for the last 2,000 years, and that no man knows the day or the hour in which the Lord is going to come. And while we're here, we should occupy till he comes, not till we think he's coming, right? So a lot more believers are seizing the opportunities that that some of the turbulence and crisis in society has brought.
Yeah.
I think the other sleep-inducing theology is that we're really scared of this idea of being rich, right? We actually feel like we're doing something wrong by making a profit, right? We feel like if we're helping people, it should be free. These are kind of inherited ideas. So I guess I should probably address some of those ideas.
Yes, please do.
I think I want to say it this way, that that most of our faith heroes were very rich. Okay,
That's true.
So when we tell our children, dare to be a Daniel, well, if we look at the financial statement of Daniel, right,
it was heavy.
He was very rich.
Yes,
you know, he was chief advisor to several pagan kings, and he had an administrative jurisdiction over huge regions, and he lived a palatial life. Didn't stop him being prayerful, and it didn't stop him being prophetic. Right? So
Absolutely.
You don't have to choose between prosperity and piety, right? You don't have to choose between being spiritual or being material. We also know that the richest man who ever lived was King Solomon. Okay? And King Solomon acquired wealth through his wisdom. And we know that if anyone lacks wisdom, they can ask God.
Yes.
All right? And to get it to kind of I kind of want to maybe address what I think of as selective outrage, right? In that as Christians, we're very selective about what outrages us.
Yeah.
And often not very honest about what empowers us. So let's be honest about the fact that Christian philanthropy, that NGOs, agencies, relief organizations that are feeding the hungry, that are bringing clean water to villages, medical attention, all of these charities rely heavily on donations.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
Now, when you look at the donations, at the donor base, the majority of their income is coming from high net donors.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
And the minority is coming from the average donor. Right? So Christian philanthropy requires that there are some very successful, wealthy Christians.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Because if none of us is wealthy, if all of us are just barely making it, right? Then that diminishes our impact in the developing world.
Absolutely.
It diminishes our ability to serve the developing world. And I'm going to boil this down perhaps to the Good Samaritan story. Right? The Good Samaritan is what we all aspire to be, right? We don't want to be the Pharisee or the Levite that walked by on the other side. We want to be the Good Samaritan who helps the helpless, who befriends the friendless, becomes hope for the hopeless. But if you read the story very carefully, the Good Samaritan was a man of means and substance, because he was able to go down to this man who had been beaten, stripped, robbed, left for dead, bandage him up, put him on his own beast, which means he has transportation, take him to an inn, right? A medical facility, I guess, in the modern world, right? And pay his medical expenses. And then say that if it costs any more, I'll pay the difference on my return.
Absolutely.
Okay, so if you're going to be a Good Samaritan, okay, then you need to be in the position to provide practical support and help to people that need practical support and help. There comes a point where the church cannot simply say, be warmed, be filled,
God bless you.
Bless you, have faith, give God a praise, shout, spin around 3 times. When people have practical needs,
yeah.
right, and need practical support. So we have to get the idea out of our mind that there is something wrong with being rich. Okay? We have to get that out of our mind.
Yes.
But because we've overdosed on this diet, a lot of us are sleeping. So the first key to awakening the entrepreneurial spirit is combating the inherited ideas that keep us asleep. Okay. They're like a drug. And they actually keep us in an alternative reality that is not real. Yes. And we have to wake up by saying, okay, look, yes, Jesus is coming, right?
Yeah.
But you don't know when, so you better get busy and occupy till he comes.
Yes.
Right?
And that was a command. It was a command given to us, yes.
And number 2, if there's something wrong with being rich, then half of our faith heroes need to be etched out of the Bible.
Yeah. Yeah.
All right?
Yeah.
There's a reason why some of our faith heroes were very rich. And there's a reason why some of us need to become very rich. And we don't become very rich by kneeling and praying and saying, God, give me money, and then checking the mailbox. You become very rich by creativity, by wisdom, by industry, by enterprise. So that's the difference between me and what you might call a traditional prosperity preacher. Prosperity preachers believe in magic money. I don't believe in magic money. I don't believe that if you give tithes and offerings to your church, that money will show up in your mailbox. That's magic money. It's delusional. It's delusional, right? I think that believers should be generous. Yes. I think that believers should give and donate. But if you're going to be personally prosperous, you are going to have to become creative, industrious. You're going to have to create value for others. You're going to have to package it, promote it, price it, position it. And you are going to have to become an entrepreneur. You are not going to get rich by doing the job market, which if that's your calling, great. And I think you can be very happy, fulfilled, successful, and get by in the job market. For a little while longer. I'll talk about that in a minute. Yeah. But if you're going to be rich, you're going to have to become an entrepreneur. Yeah. And we're going to need some of us to be rich.
Absolutely. Oh my God, Bishop. You've just hit the nail on its head.
All right, let's keep
We're not going to be rich by just praying and giving our tithes.
No.
And then hoping somehow that there'll be money in the mail, a check in the mail, like you've said. So, oh my God, thank you so much for speaking about that. It's very, very important because I think many people actually do hate the prosperity gospel because they have sowed big seeds. Some have sold properties and put the money in the offering basket, and they're hungry today.
Yes.
They're hungry. And many have actually walked away from the church. So would you address that person who they just feel like they've been robbed of their inheritance, actually? Some people, I mean, if you sell an entire house and put that into the offering basket and then you're now without shelter.
Yeah.
Some have walked away from the gospel with that. Would you address that person, and then we carry on with our podcast?
Yeah. So again, I think it's been a regrettable stage in the church's evolution that some ministers taught this magic money principle. Okay.
Yes.
And they taught it very often to impressionable people who were quite vulnerable. And it's regrettable that has happened, and anyone that's a victim of that, I feel the pain. I understand the pain. What you don't want to do now is just swing like a pendulum to the total opposite end of the spectrum and just begin to hate any mention of the word prosperity, because otherwise you're going to have to start etching things out of the Bible.
Yes. Yeah.
What you want to do is correct your understanding. And in correcting your understanding, what you'll see, so if we went right back into biblical times, right?
Yes.
People gave offerings. They gave tithes, they gave offerings to support the Levites, the priests, and so on. And their prayer was that God would bless their work.
Yes.
Okay.
Work of their
Not,
hands.
not so much the gift, but the work that they're actually about to do. Because they were going to, what they wanted was they understood that we were going to sow into our own soil and we were going to reap a harvest with God's blessing. So there had to be something you were doing in order for it to be blessed.
Yes.
And so whenever you're giving and you're being generous and so forth, you have to match that up, line that up with something you are doing, a project that you're working on, a business that you're building, something that you will eventually bring to market, and then look for a blessing on that, as opposed to miracle money appearing from nowhere.
Yeah.
All right. Because you're going to find 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 10 people around the world say, it happened to me. I woke up, I opened the mailbox and there was a check for 20,000 after I gave 2,000. Yeah. The exceptions don't make a rule.
Absolutely.
All right.
Absolutely.
The rule, let me give you the rule. All right. Psalm 1. Right? Psalm 1 says, blessed is the man that walks not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor stands in the way of sinners, nor sits in the seat of the scornful. But his delight is in the law, which I'm going to call the principles of the Lord. And in his law, in his principles, does he meditate day and night. He shall be like a tree planted by the rivers of water that brings forth fruit in his season. His leaf also shall not wither. And here's the big piece. And whatsoever he doeth shall prosper.
Yes.
So I need to do something in order to prosper.
Yes.
Whatever I'm doing has got to prosper. So it has to be a project. It has to be something I'm working on. And I'm going to give another one, since we're having this wonderful conversation here today, right?
Please do. Go ahead, Bishop.
If you look at the parable of the talents, right? To where the Lord gives one 5 talents, another 2 talents, another 1 talent. One with 5 talents doubles the money. One with 2 talents doubles the money. One with 1 talent hides the money, right, and gives back exactly what he received. The one who hid the money was called an evil, a wicked, and a slothful servant, right? But the question is, why did he give the one 5 and the other 2 and the other 1? And it says it in the scriptures like this: every man according to his ability. His ability. What ability is that? It's your ability to trade, right? So if you want more, you have to up or increase your ability. And so the first thing that every believer should do is invest in a financial education, a commercial education, a leadership education.
Wow.
Learn how to manage money, learn all the rules and the laws of money, understand financial language, improve your financial vocabulary, and become financially literate. Make that one of your goals. You will attract more money just through your level of financial literacy, right? You should also become commercially literate and understand how to market and sell your services and your ideas, because everything in this world is a sales pitch. Everything is a sales pitch. We're selling in our relationships. We're selling in when we go to work. When we dress for work, we're selling ourselves. When we do an interview, we're selling ourselves. You have to learn how to market your products, your brand, your services, and how to sell. You have to become commercially smart, sophisticated, and literate. That will start to create wealth. And finally, you have to increase your ability as a leader, right? As a leader, because business is leadership. All right, it's leadership. Because you're going to have to set goals. You're going to have to cast vision. You're going to have to motivate a team. You're going to have to, achieve collective goals. There's so much of business is leadership. So I would say this: if you're giving money to a ministry, but not equally growing your financial literacy, your commercial literacy, and your leadership literacy, you might not see that money ever come back in terms of a check in the mail,
Mm.
right?
Mm.
You can be satisfied knowing that you've donated to a great cause.
Yeah.
But if your sole purpose in giving was to get magic money,
Mm-hmm.
I'd prefer you didn't give at
I
all.
know.
Like, stop it. Stop it. That's not even giving. It's selfish. Like you're
You're
claiming
giving
that
to,
you're being
yeah,
generous when
yeah,
actually you're trying to get magic money. Don't do that. Be
yeah,
generous,
yeah.
right? Be generous. God loves a what? A cheerful
Cheerful
giver,
giver.
right? Be generous. Give because you believe in the cause. Give because you want to empower an
Mm.
operation or a project or your church or your ministry. Give out of a very clean and pure heart. But when
Yeah.
it comes to your personal prosperity,
Mm.
best thing you could do is increase your ability, because he's giving to every man according to his ability.
Yes.
Increase your ability in those 3 areas and it will make a difference.
Wow, Bishop, thank you. So, so many questions come up there. How does one start? Imagine someone who's just listened to this podcast and they're saying, I understand what you're saying, Bishop, and I really want to start, but where do I start from? How do I start increasing my financial knowledge, for instance? I know that there's a lot on YouTube, but there's just such a, it's just too much. You don't even know
where to start.
Yeah, where to start. How, if someone has already started and maybe they have a product and they now want to learn how to market it, the commercial side of it, where do they start? What would you tell them?
Okay. What am I going to tell them? Okay, so I'll speak generally first and then I'll be specific, right?
Okay.
So first of all, you've hit the nail on the head, right? Because the first stage in any creative process is always let there be light. We learned that from Genesis 1.
Yeah.
God built his enterprise. The universe is his enterprise.
Yes.
The kingdom is the enterprise of God. God built his enterprise in stages called days.
Yes.
Right? And even though he had the power to create everything in one day with one word, he still made it in stages called creative days. He paused to review each day and say it is good before going on to the next day. So the first thing to say is, look, becoming an entrepreneur is a journey and a process that happens in stages.
Yes.
Like, it's not just a sudden thing, right? And you have to be patient and commit to the stages. So stage 1 is always let there be light. And it's the stage where you gather information.
Yes.
It's the stage where you commit to learning. Now, the good news is that we're in the information age, and unlike any other generation in the history of the world, we have access to more knowledge, more information and more advice than any generation that had ever existed before us.
Yeah.
And we have it on our phone, right? We have it on our devices. So I would start with some simple searches, okay? Financial education basics.
Okay.
YouTube.
Okay.
Financial education basics. Because what's going to happen as you get the basics is you're going to develop an appetite for more understanding and for more understanding and for more understanding. So the key is to just start at the beginning. Basics. Want to understand the basics. How to market my products. Basic. Right? You just start looking at basic videos, right? Because you how to become an effective leader. Basic. Basics, yeah. You start with basics, right? So that's the starting point, because YouTube is free and everyone can get onto YouTube, so start there. What's going to happen is, as you go along, you're going to start to realize that there are particular authors who specialize in these things. There are particular book series, like For Dummies series, right? Or The Idiot's Guide. And that's not, disparaging to the person. That's just saying, look, if you don't know anything about this, here's a good place to start.
Yeah. So
you can get an Idiot's Guide or a Entrepreneurship for Dummies. You can get those things. Now you start building a library. So now you're building a library around your your vision, and you're
Mm.
consuming new data. And as you're consuming new information and you're building your library, what's happening is your language, you're improving your vocabulary, your language is changing, and therefore your thinking, your ways of thinking are changing. You're now thinking about things you wouldn't have thought about if you hadn't read that book. Now
Yes.
you've read that book, you're thinking about things a little more differently. And then the ultimate fast track is to get a coach. Right? So
Yes.
you're going to get a coach has been there, done that, got the t-shirt, kind of knows what are the obstacles in the way, what's important to notice, what you can ignore, what you need to put in place, and can take you through a process that gets you there much faster than you just doing it yourself.
Yeah.
But you should always start by doing it yourself, right? It should be self-initiated. You must always be building your library of books and building your library of videos that are teaching you how to do the kind of businesses on your heart. So that was general, right? So where to start is not an excuse for not starting. Start. Okay? Start.
Yes,
Because the
yes.
path of the just is like a shining light that shines more and more until the perfect day.
Yes.
Start and consecrate 1 hour a week to your personal development. Just 1 hour. 1 hour a week. The doors closed. I'm watching my videos about business and money and leadership.
Yeah.
1 hour a week. The doors closed. I'm reading my books. Whatever the case is, you start somewhere.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
Specifically, what you asked me about is what I actually do. So specifically,
more,
I am a business coach,
Yeah.
a business development coach,
Yeah.
and an executive coach, which is really leadership coaching.
Mm-hmm.
And I've developed a number of programs that help people make the transition from an employee's mindset to an entrepreneur's mindset. I have programs that help people to get started in business, and I have programs that help people to scale their business. So I have a number of programs, all right? And a number of resources. So, but I'm not the only one. There are just lots of great business consultants, leadership consultants, marketing consultants, and coaches who have created a lot of resource. All right. And again, it's going to boil, well, who do you know? Who do you trust? Who do you work with?
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And I would say some of that has to do with God. Like if you've landed on this podcast today and you've been fascinated and you've been listening to everything I'm saying, that's probably God telling you should start one of Bishop's programs, right?
Now.
because you're not starting from scratch after you've listened to this podcast. You kind of know where I'm coming from and how I think. So so we have a number of programs like that, and they just come in at different levels because it's a journey. It's just there isn't a one size fits all. Different businesses require different strategies.
Yes.
And different business goals require different business routes or directions and pathways. So we don't just have one coaching system. We have several coaching systems depending on your business goals. All right. If all you're trying to do is create a passive income to fund your lifestyle, it's a credible business goal, but there are strategies that work for that. If what you're trying to do is build a business you can sell one day, we call that a big payday business, which a lot of people in tech are doing. They're going to work on their app and everything so they can sell it to Google, they can sell it to YouTube, right? It's the big payday thing. Well, there's a formula for that, right? If what you're trying to build is to kind of hedge against retirement, there's a strategy for that. And if you're trying to build a legacy business that stays in your family from generation to generation, there are strategies for that. The reality is, start with your own personal education, eventually take on a coach or get into a coaching program, get into a coaching community that kind of accelerates your knowledge. But remember that all the knowledge you get in all the world, right, is just let there be light. It's not creation. It's just the starting point. Because after you get all this knowledge, you have to take a risk and do something. Okay? You have to do something. You have to start that business, and by all means, pray for it, believe for it, you know, surround it with good values,
Mm.
but work it.
Work it.
Okay,
Absolutely.
work it, because
Yeah.
it's not going to be blessed just because you're a Christian.
Mm, mm. Wow, Bishop, amazing. I like something that you said there about strategy.
Yeah.
Talking about strategies, there's strategies for each and every type of business. And there's a session that you did on strategy. And I just want to ask why, first of all, what is strategy and why is it important to be a strategic thinker?
Yeah. So, you know, if I were to give a biblical definition for strategy, it's wisdom.
Mm.
Okay, strategy is wisdom.
Yeah.
It's and really it's a military term. It's a term we've borrowed from the military, and
Mm.
it's the work of generals. Generals are responsible to figure out how we're going to win this battle,
Yes.
how we're going to achieve our military goals.
Yeah.
So it's the battle plan. And when it
Mm.
comes to business, you need a battle plan. You need someone who is thinking, who is looking from above
Mm.
at the business, who understands now the challenges we're going to face, the opportunities we're going to have, our strengths, our weaknesses, our competitors, what we're competing with, and can develop a plan that gets us from where we are to where we want to go.
Yeah.
So it's just really, it's business planning.
Mm.
I almost don't like using the word business plans, right? A business plan. I use it, but I almost don't like it, because for too many people, it's just a document that you produce to
Yeah.
take to the bank to
Yeah.
try to get an overdraft,
Yeah.
right? It- that's not it. You want a
Mm.
business strategy.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
You want something that you want a sense of confidence and certainty about where you're going
Mm.
and what you might face. And yes, the terrain is always still going to surprise you, but you're
Mm.
more likely to survive, surprises if you have a good strategy that factors those things in.
Yeah.
So, for me, strategy is everything. It is actually the root of business success and failure. Most of the clients I've worked with over the years whose business went into crisis, most of the time it can be traced to a strategic error, right?
Mm.
And a strategic error.
Okay.
And so I do advise people to develop a robust business strategy, right, at the earliest possible stage, and then to keep reviewing their business strategy as they go, which is what all the big companies do. We just
Mm.
don't realize
Mm.
that they have strategy meetings all the
All
time,
the time,
that
yeah.
generals who are winning battles are having strategy meetings all the time,
Mm.
because things are moving, things are changing. We need a strategy to deal with it. And I also believe that God is a God of strategy. All right. Now, I hope there's not too much, because I love rambling on.
Come on now. Come on now.
I,
We're
I,
enjoying and learning.
I think God is a God of strategy. I think God saves by strategy.
Mm-hmm.
So if you ask God to save you,
Mm.
he's probably not going to reach his hand down and pick you up.
Yeah.
He's going to give you a strategy
Mm.
whereby you can be saved.
Yeah.
So, Noah, I'm going to destroy the world, but you found favor in my sight.
Mm-hmm.
Now here's the strategy by which you're going to be saved. Build an ark, build it of gopher wood, pitch it inside and out, put levels and layers on the ark. God gave him a strategy.
Mm-hmm.
God says, Moses, I'm going to destroy all the firstborn of Egypt.
Yeah.
Right?
That's
But I'm going to give you a strategy whereby you and people of faith can be saved.
Yes.
It involves the blood of a lamb.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So whenever you want God to do something, don't sit back and wonder when is he going to show up.
Yeah.
Instead of looking for the answer, start listening for the answer, because what he's going to give you is a strategy.
Mm.
If you need more money, God is not likely to put it in the mailbox.
Yeah.
He's likely to give you a strategy for getting more money. It's wisdom.
Yes.
All right.
Yeah.
So, I guess my one of our core values has to do with a strategic approach to business. All right. So the whole idea is, look, let there be light. Don't shoot in the dark. Don't rely on wishful thinking and hoping for the best. Let's look at your competition. right? And we have tools that help you to understand what you're coming up against.
Mm-hmm.
Let's identify your target, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like who are your customers, your potential customers?
Yeah.
Let's locate them. Let's use the right media to get your message to them. Let's think about this and let's get it straight, right from the beginning. And yes, there will be surprises, but you just have another strategy meeting, right?
Yes.
And you keep on going.
Reviewing.
You keep reviewing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm just learning a lot
Now,
from you.
interestingly, I'm giving away a free kind of report that I've written about business strategy, right? So anyone can download it, right? It's just free, and there's no strings attached to it, right?
Yeah.
And it's you can get it from businessstrategysecret.com.
Okay.
businessstrategysecret.com. Just one whole word, no hyphens, businessstrategysecret.com. And you can read it. It's a quick read. It's 20 pages, but it could save you years of disappointment, frustration,
Wow.
and setback, because it's all the things I wished I knew at the beginning that I've had to learn over many years.
Yeah.
And it's right there in a quick read, 20-page report, and it's free. So grab that.
Wow.
If strategy is the thing, grab that.
Wow. Thank you so much, Bishop. You're already giving us value.
Already.
Already. Quickly, you talked about God giving people strategy to come out of impossible situations. Why is God vested? Why is God vested in people's success? Oh,
that's a good one. That's a good one. I love that one. Yeah. So I teach that God has a vested interest in you succeeding in the marketplace, particularly, and that he's a stakeholder in your business.
That's wonderful to hear.
And that ultimately he's perhaps the majority shareholder in your business in real terms.
Absolutely.
Okay. Given that he's invested more into it than you have. You've invested financially, but he's invested you. So there's a reason why it's important to God and to the kingdom and to the gospel and to everything that the New Testament represents that you are winning in the marketplace. Is because success in the marketplace, almost unlike anything else, makes you very visible. Okay?
True.
It also makes you very credible. It also makes you audible. Right?
Yes.
It puts you in the place where you can represent the interests of heaven on earth. And this is why God is behind Joseph's rise to power in Egypt. Because God wants an agent in the system. He wants an agent. He wants agency in the system. He wants access to the system, and he wants an advertisement in the system. And he does that by raising up Joseph. He raised up Esther, put her in the palace of Ahasuerus, because from her position, she could intercept the enemy.
Yes.
She could change the culture and the character of a kingdom.
Yes.
She could reverse laws and legislation that was passed against the people of God. She could do it not from outside the gates with banners and placards, but because of her strategic position inside the palace, which means you had to win a competition. She won the competition, and in business terms, that you know that really means that you have a competitive advantage, right? And that you are winning a significant share of the market. It gives you opportunities that are not available to others. And so God, who is the God of strategy, in this spiritual war to reverse the curse, to reclaim everything that was lost as a result of the fall, God, as the strategic general, he's not just coming at it from the ground. He's going to come at it from the sea, from the air. and he's going to win the propaganda war. He's going to battle for hearts and minds.
Yes.
He's got people operating in different ways.
Yeah.
So I don't think everyone is supposed to be a very successful entrepreneur, right? But I think everyone has a purpose, has a part to play in the master's plan.
Yes.
And the more of us that are winning in the marketplace, in the commercial space, or even in the civic space, is the more agency and representation that the kingdom has there.
Yes.
And I think if we fail to see this generation must not fail to see how important it is that Christians go into civic life, politics, government, local level, national level, that believers must become teachers and educators and head teachers and school governing boards and bodies and run tenants associations. Believers should be all up in the police service,
Yes.
all up in every service, every facet of civic life. And believers should be winning in business. Okay? And if we can't see how important it is to the next generation, that this generation is awakened to that now, all that's going to happen is, like, if we don't, the next generation of believers will find themselves at a disadvantage in the world because they can't get, they're going to find themselves living in a world where the laws and rules work against them and for others, where the monetary system works against them, but for others, they're going to find themselves in a position where they have no leverage. And if you look at any, if you look at the journey of an ethnic minority, the first generation makes so many sacrifices.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Those sacrifices give an opportunity to the second generation who have to make more sacrifices.
Yeah.
But eventually they're creating opportunity by building platforms and leverage to where a future generation doesn't have to fight some of the battles that we fought.
Yeah.
And they can take it to a much further level.
Yeah.
Well, I think Christians, sometimes believers, we have to think of ourselves as a minority, right?
Yeah.
In the society, and realize that the same principles work, that we have to be our visions, our dreams, our goals need to be generational in scope.
Yes.
Not just personal, because I think that's the good godly thing to do. I think Abraham had generational vision.
Yeah.
I think a good man leaves an inheritance for his children's children.
That scripture came to mind.
So it's generational vision, because we have generational problems and you won't be able to solve them without generational solutions.
Absolutely.
So what my job is to create platforms or leverage for the next generation who will create platforms and leverage for the next generation. And if we don't, then they're starting at a disadvantage, right? It's like dropping the baton and refusing to pick it up and go to the finishing line. We're giving the whole team a disadvantage. So I think we have to wake up to this now. And I invite everyone to join in. It's our time and it's our turn.
Absolutely, Bishop. Bishop, if I was reading this in a book that you wrote, I'll get my yellow highlighter and highlight everything and reread it and reread it. I mean, what you've just said there needs, I don't know how many episodes to unpack it, but I hope and pray that whoever is listening to this podcast and watching this podcast, that would go back and really distill what you've just said and apply it on a personal level, community level, global level even, because what you've just said right there is about the survival of the church. It's about the survival of the gospel of Jesus Christ. And it's the Great Commission itself, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
To go out and make disciples, not only spiritually, but in business, in finance, in politics.
The actual commission is to teach all nations. It's to disciple the nations.
Yes.
We're not just discipling believers, we're discipling nations.
Nations, absolutely. And I like what you said there, that we need to rise up in all positions such
Yeah.
that we are great ambassadors and we're effecting change, the lawmaking process.
Yeah.
It's just amazing. But as we conclude, Bishop, I mean,
Yeah.
it's just, I don't want to say goodbye, but we have to.
We do.
I was just so blessed when I was listening to something that you were teaching about, one of the forgotten intelligence,
Yes.
which is the spiritual intelligence, and it
Yes.
informs all other intelligence. Could you just, in a nutshell, just help that person listening today or watching to tell us
Okay.
about spiritual intelligence?
Yeah, so I have a book and a course on spiritual intelligence for entrepreneurs, right?
Yes.
And in the marketplace, and it's not available on Amazon. You can only get it through our ministry, but
Yeah.
and it really addresses the fact that there are intelligences that give you an advantage in the marketplace that are known, right? Like academic intelligence will give you an advantage. Emotional intelligence will also give you an advantage, and so will social or relational intelligence. And if you have good relational skills and emotional skills, and you can quickly learn how to do things with your academic skill set, that definitely gives you an advantage, right?
Yes.
But there is a forgotten intelligence or a obscured intelligence, right? That underlies all those other intelligences, and it's what I call spiritual intelligence, and it's the intelligence we came into the world with.
Yes.
It's the part of you that God made, right? As opposed to the parts of you that are biologically made or sociologically made, right? Your spiritual intelligence is your instinctive intelligence. It's the things that you know instinctively, and it has a lot to do with intuition. Okay, so what I discovered was that you could put the same opportunity in front of two people, and one of them runs with it and the other does not. You put the same tool set in front of two people, and one of them really appreciates the tools and uses them to build something masterful, and the others do not. Because entrepreneurs have instinctive appetites and intuitions,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
That they often don't know how to write about. But they'll tell you, oh, I did this and I did that. But why did you do this and that? Where did the hunger come from?
Yes.
Where did the energy come from? Where did the creativity come from? Where was the resilience? Why, we know that entrepreneurs got to be resilient, but where does that resilience come from? It's not academic. It's not emotional or social intelligence.
Yes.
It's emerging from something deep within the person. And so my thing is this, that if you're really going to be successful as an entrepreneur, you must first locate the entrepreneur that is inside of you. Wow. You see, because you are an entrepreneur by design. And that part of you that was designed creative, industrious, energetic, resilient, you have to find that first. Because once you stir up that side of you, then even if you put bad tools in front of me, I'm still going to build well.
Yes.
Even if you gave him or her a better opportunity than me, I'm still going to beat them, because what's happening inside of me is actually is actually the root of the results that I get in life. And so I guess the whole idea of spiritual intelligence for entrepreneurs is really a way of saying that tools and techniques don't make you great in business. Greatness and success in business is due to factors that are not visible, because those factors are hidden inside of you. It's the resilience with which you can bounce back from a setback. It's the energy that gets you up in the morning and gets you through a difficult day.
Yeah.
It's all of those factors. It's your creativity.
Your creativity, yeah.
All of that is spiritual. Business is spiritual. It doesn't matter who. Look, the biggest atheist. You could be the biggest atheist in the world. I'm going to tell you that business is spiritual.
Yeah.
Why? Because business at all times is an act of faith.
Yes, it is.
And if your faith dies, so does the business.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So you got to start from that place,
Mm.
find that side of you, because it's in all of us. But find that side of you, and it will enable your academics, your emotionals, your social intelligences, and it will enable you to make the most out of opportunities. The intuition alone is going to say, you know what? I don't feel like going to that meeting, but I'm going to go there.
Yeah.
I'm going to go there because I don't know why I need to be there.
Yeah.
You end up meeting someone, you're in the right place at the right time under the right circumstances.
Yes.
That person ends up changing your life and changing your business because you acted on your intuition, your gut. Things were telling you stuff. Sometimes it was sign, and your gut says, no, I don't know what's wrong with it, but I can't sign it. There's that's spiritual intelligence.
Yeah.
I read about people who say, they were told no by one bank, turned down by one bank, turned down by another bank, turned down by 100 banks, but they still, I'm going to try another one. Let me go back again. Let me ask them again.
Yeah.
What's driving you?
Yeah.
Something else at a more profound level. It's the image and likeness of God that never takes no for an answer.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Wow. Wow. One more question, Bishop. And I promise I'll close.
Let's do this.
Listen, so are we too distracted? Do you think why we're not tapping into that creativity, that spiritual intelligence? Are we too distracted by so much that is going on, so many troubles? Because what you're talking about there will take focus. It will take shutting the door to so many things and tapping into that inside of you. So what do you think? Are we too distracted, Bishop?
I'd say life is a bit of a juggling act for everyone.
Yeah.
Right? And we've got to juggle between parts of our lives that are equally important to us.
Yeah.
Right? Making money is not the most important thing in our lives, but it's an extremely important thing for our lives. But it's not the most important thing. So people are juggling with health and family and other commitments and values and things, and that can make it very difficult to focus on an entrepreneurial venture.
Yeah.
So I guess it's going to boil down to your priorities, your responsibilities, and your values. All right. So if you are responsible for your household, then you'd better focus on how you're going to support your household.
Yeah.
That's just how the ancient world was. There was a very clear sense of, let's say, who was responsible, and people rose to the occasion.
Yeah.
I will say this, maybe, and this will be my concluding comment.
Yeah.
I think that a lot of business has been overcomplicated, right? And doesn't really need to be as complicated as it sounds. I appreciate breaking down business into components and examining and exploring those components, but not at the expense of complicating business, because business is really quite simple. I have something you want, you have something I want. Is that simple? Okay.
True.
All right.
Absolutely.
That's it. That's as simple as it is. Okay.
Yeah.
So I have a glass of water, you want a glass of water. You have a pound, I want a pound. Let's exchange.
Come on now.
All right. It's
as
that
simple as that.
It's that simple. So really, if you can get something that people want more than they want the money in their pocket, right? You can go into business. It can be as simple as you fix shelves.
Yes.
Okay?
Yeah.
and you'll fix the shelf for £10 or £20 an hour, whatever it is you want to do, how you're going to fix shelves.
Yeah.
Well, you fixing my shelf is worth more to me than the 10 or £20 in my pocket, so I'll give that to you in exchange for you fixing my shelves.
Yeah.
It could be mowing the lawn, right? It could be, that I want to set up my own YouTube channel, but I don't know how. So now you've got something that I want.
Yeah.
Right? And you just look at me and you say, you know what? I do. I have something you want. You want to set up your YouTube channel, right? Yes, I do. I have that. I can do that for you.
Yeah.
But you have something I want. Okay?
Yeah.
And it's, right? So let's exchange in a fair way, that you feel like you're getting what you want and I feel like I'm getting what I want. That's as simple as business really is.
Yeah.
And I guess there are lots of implications to that. There's so much more I could say, obviously, but we can call it a day here.
Oh, thank you so much, Bishop. Thank you so much. You have added so much value to us and to our listeners. And I know that people are going to be blessed. And I hope they actually, wake up to the reality that you've just shared here today. So thank you so much, Bishop.
Bless you.
Finally, how can people get in contact with you?
Yeah, so I'm on most social media platforms. So we're on Instagram at Bishop WM.
Yeah.
I'm on Facebook at Bishop Wayne Malcolm.
Yes.
Our official website is businessbishop.com. And but I think that people should take advantage of the free gift that I'm giving away for entrepreneurs.
Yeah.
It's called businessstrategysecret.com. Just go to businessstrategysecret.com and you can download a really good read. Okay, wow. A really good read that kind of breaks down the role that strategy plays in business.
Yeah.
And once you get onto any of our platforms, you'll find links to all of the things that we offer, that we do. So we're here.
Thank you so much, Bishop. Thank you for being with us today.
Bless you.
Thank you so much, everybody. Until next time, it's Mary. Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to the Faithful podcast by Faithworld TV. Until next time, bye-bye.